All right, good morning, everybody. Just a reminder to everyone to be in eScribe under the Planning and Works Committee to ensure you're able to vote on eScribe. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Planning and Works Committee meeting on March 5th, 2024. I will now call on the committee clerk to conduct the roll call.
Regional Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Councillor Erb. Present. Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor Hunick.
Present.
Chair James.
Present.
Councillor Liggett.
Present.
Councillor McCabe. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Salonen.
Present.
Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Verbanovich.
Present.
Councillor Williams. Councillor Wolf.
Present.
And we have regrets from Councillor Deutschman. Thank you.
I would like to acknowledge that the land in which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Chinanton peoples. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements, and their contributions to our community. We'll now move on to item 3, declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, okay. We have no presentations. There are no delegations this morning for P&W. Consent agenda. So we will now proceed with the consent agenda. If you wish to remove an item from the consent agenda, please indicate so now, as we will not take questions or comments on the items unless they are requested to be moved to the regular agenda.
Chair James, I would like to pull out the second item, which is the GRT report.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any other agenda items? Okay, all right, so I will now call, I need someone to move the consent agenda. Councillor Salonen, seconded by Councillor Hunick. Okay, and if you could use eScribe to vote. Yeah. Good. Okay. So that is carried. Okay, so we will, Councillor Hunick, you wanted to speak to the Grand River Transit ridership update?
Yes. Thank you, Chair James. The GRT Mobility Plus report reports that the current undelivered rate of trips is 5.4, and I know 5.4%, and I know the goal that was set was 2.5. And so I'm just wondering if GRT staff can speak to the problems reaching that and what will be done in the second quarter to make sure that we're headed toward the target.
Doug Spooner, you're here. You want to speak to
Yeah.
that? Thank you.
Through you, Chair, and good morning, Council. So, Councillor Hunick, the 5.4 is our annualized 2023 rate of undelivered trips. So as we set the target for 2024, I haven't yet reported on our Q1 numbers, but to remind Council of a few things that we've done in order to address and to get to that target, we are now up to our full complement of pre-pandemic Mobility Plus operators, so that's 3 additional from what we had in 2023. This council will also remember that through plan and budget, we approved the equivalent of 1 bus and 1 driver, so additional capacity there that can be either applied through GRT resources or also through taxi resources. And third is council also approved 6,850 hours of what we call operational adjustments. So those are unallocated hours that we use throughout the year for to hit our targets on Mobility Plus, also to adjust for crowding or other things that happen in year that we're unable to plan for in the previous cycle. So.
Thank you. Can I ask a follow-up, Chair James?
Yeah, one follow-up, and then we have another councillor.
There's a lot of folks that are reaching out to me because they are unable to book rides even as far in advance as allowed. And so can you speak to why that might be happening and what's being done to remedy it?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you again, Councillor Hunick. There's an interesting thing happening in our booking cycle. So for Council, we open up our Mobility Plus bookings 7 days in advance. And what we see is actually a bit of a cycle where trips booked 7 days in advance, we actually often hit 100%. But then as we get closer to the delivery of those trips, because people are living their lives as we all do, some of those trips are canceled and returned back into the pool for booking. So I know the frustration our customers face. They call 7 days out, no rides available. They call again 6 days out. And just think through this experience, right? 6 days out, no rides available. And then all of a sudden on the 5th day out, there's a ride available, but it's just not at the right time. And the question is, do I take that one today, or do I try again on the 4 days out, 3 days out, 2 days out? So we've got to figure this one out, right? There has to be a way that somebody can engage with our organization once and have a ride booked, or have some way to know when that ride is available. I'll be back, I believe, next cycle in April, speaking to you about Mobility Plus software and its ability to manage bookings, but also its ability to manage trips. So the optimization of our existing buses and how we allocate drivers. And really the other frustrating thing is how we group trips. So if we show up with 2 vehicles, 2 customers, they both know they're going to a similar location, and they're looking and going, we're not optimizing those resources. So that's the next piece we have to really get after. So
Thank you for your work, Mr. Spooner. The public
you.
needs to know that. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Craig.
Yes, just a quick question and perhaps a sense of direction regarding the GRT service in Cambridge, and I'm talking about the terminal. I am getting concerns or complaints from people that there's no printed schedules, and these people are saying we don't have computers, and we would like to have printed schedules at the bus station. I'm just wondering if you can comment on that, or you can rectify that instantly.
Through you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Craig, for the question. So yes, as we're updating our service, as we all know, our service is growing quickly. One of the challenges is updating those printed schedules. So the commitment is that any customer at any point can go to one of our customer service locations, be it at Ainsley Terminal, at Benton, at Strasbourg, and ask for a printed schedule. So that has been remedied as I became aware this morning. That action's been taken, so our customer service agents are aware. That should not be a...
Well, that's pretty quick action. I'm somewhat impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see no further questions. And special thank you to your team last week for taking Councillor Jamal Myers, chair of TTC, around to show them our integrated transit system. Appreciate that. Okay, so that report was for information. We are now moving on to the regular agenda. Strategic priority climate-aligned growth, item 7.1. Commissioner Jennifer Rose is here to introduce the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is a mandated report under the Safe Drinking Water Act that we, as the operating authority, Water and Wastewater Services, must submit to Council as the owner of the drinking water system. It's part of our duty to communicate with the system owner. It's also mandated that this report will be posted on our website by the end of March. And Director McNeil is going to go through a short slide presentation just to walk you through it.
Thanks, Jennifer. Good morning, members of the Planning and Works Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present this morning. As you're likely aware, March is a busy month in municipal water as we prepare annual reports that speak to our performance and compliance track record. Along with the council report on the same, today's presentation represents the culminating effort of the team for the past year in water services, with highlights pertaining to our annual summary report and timely updates from our division. Next slide, please. So we've shown this slide to you before, but it's a fitting place to start in retrospect of 2023, where as far as it gets from a lake-based water source in southern Ontario, this means our water comes from limited supply sources such as aquifers in the Grand River that require dedicated stewardship. This also means we have an enormous quantity of infrastructure, as you can see on the slide, serving a wide range of rural and urban communities in both 1-tier and 2-tier formats. We also have the most facilities and infrastructure of any municipality in Canada, We are highly reliant on a high degree of automation. Next slide. So as we move into compliance updates, it's appropriate to start with an overview of rules. In 2002, Justice O'Connor...
Sorry to interrupt. Councillor Hunick?
Sure. Is this better? Okay, super.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Thank you. So as we move into compliance updates, it's appropriate to start with an overview of rules. In 2002, Justice O'Connor said, given the safety of drinking water is essential for public health, those who discharge the oversight responsibilities of the municipality should be held to a statutory standard of care. The responsibilities of managing water require caution and prudence by all of us, which is a nice segue to the next slide. So both council, as the drinking water system owner, and staff, who are the operating authority, have several responsibilities. We must provide water that meets all prescribed drinking water quality standards. We must ensure that we are appropriately staffed and supervised by qualified people. We must comply with all the sampling, testing, and monitoring requirements, and we must meet all reporting requirements. Next slide. So this slide in front of you is a snapshot from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks website. I highly recommend visiting this site for an overview of the municipal councillor's responsibilities under the statutory standard of care. Another online half-day course is offered by the Walkerton Clean Water Centre. It's well delivered and concise. I'll gladly pass on course registration information and be happy to cover the cost for anyone interested. Finally, I'd highly recommend visiting the Check Your Knowledge section of this website, which provides 21 questions that every owner should be able to answer. For example, have I had a tour of our facilities? So we hosted a tour last year for council. We'd be happy to host another tour this spring and summer, which would allow you to answer this question to the positive. Second question might be, for example, how do we manage potential impacts to water quality following storms? The answer here is that we have mature operating procedures for our river intake and wellhead protection areas that clearly define our responses to storm and flooding events as a part of our drinking water quality management system. If you find you're unable to answer any of the 21 questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We want you to be informed and prepared. Next slide, please. So I promised an update on our compliance performance this year. As recorded in the summary report, I'm pleased to share that we had 0 non-compliances related to permitted flow exceedances. Following 19 inspections that occurred in 2023 and just wrapped up this month in more than 150 facilities, we had 5 non-compliances. One was related to record keeping, one was related to a contractor-operated equipment. The region has a very strong compliance track record. For example, we also note that we have 3 non-compliances with regards to monitoring due to equipment failures. But to put this into context, the region also operates approximately 1,500 instruments across 155 facilities. The graph to the right summarizes our compliance score in percentages year over year. You'll see the results are close to a perfect score. At the time of publishing this presentation, we were still waiting on 2 inspection reports, so I'm happy to report that our culminating inspection result will come in even higher than the 99.5% score shown here. Also worth noting is the provincial average for the DWQMS inspections is 98.5, so I'd say we've cleared that bar quite nicely. So to further test our rigor in compliance, we're audited twice a year. First, we invite in an operator to dig and challenge us. We ask her to report back on any of the gaps we can improve on. This prepares us for an external audit by NSF, a reputable municipal drinking water auditor. The results of our audit came in just a few weeks ago, and the results were 0 non-conformances. This means we do what we say we're going to do. This year, we were offered 1 opportunity for improvement, which was to consider coding our opportunities for better tracking and identification. The auditor then closed out with 5 strengths of our drinking water system. We have a mature system, our staff are committed, our risk assessment, internal audit, and system-related document management are all robust. Next slide, please. So suffice to say, all this is in service of our existing and growing community. The division is prepared for growth. Our water systems have the capacity to support an additional 190,000 people. These details are further outlined in the Water and Wastewater Monitoring Report that is updated and published annually as a good resource. I'd be happy to provide these links following this committee meeting. Next slide. The team is advancing a series of studies and strategies, as Council is aware, to ensure that there is enough water supply for growth. The water supply strategy continues to move forward with technical memos currently finalizing and modeling to forecast future water supply. St. Jacob and Wellesley wastewater treatment plant EAs are aimed at supporting the expansion for these same plants. These projects were identified in the previous wastewater treatment master plan. The new wastewater treatment master plan will be starting in a few years, and it is a review of all of our wastewater treatment plants and pumping stations. And of course, we always consider, as we're growing, vigilance around the limitations of the river's capacity to accept wastewater and sustainable groundwater supply. This is otherwise known as the assimilative capacity study. Thank you, members of the Planning and Works Committee. This concludes my update today.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Okay, Councillor Nowak?
Yes, I'm just wondering, and maybe the commissioner could answer this. I did see an email that you had sent Rick last evening, but I just wanted to get a bit of an update on the Housing Enabling Water System Fund that the government has put in. I'm wondering if you've identified or what areas you've identified for potential funding. Could you give us some information on that?
Certainly, through the chair to Councillor Nowak. We are reviewing the criteria very closely. It's quite narrowly defined. So a lot of our projects are not eligible for the funding. However, we've got it down to a short list now, and what we're trying to do is figure out which projects will provide the region with the most funding in order to support growth and housing in the region. And if we are successful in receiving that grant money, then the funding that was allocated for that project can be moved into other projects which can also support housing. So we expect to have a project identified by the end of this week, which I can provide update to you on.
So that's one project that you would have identified?
There are several at the moment, and we're just going through to make sure they meet the strict eligibility requirements.
Okay. I'd be interested in knowing what that short list is of the ones that you've identified.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Went on the tour, and it was amazing. I think all councils should have gone. Also, we used to have a water, I don't know what we called it, and it went over the problems with water. There used to be the new councils would all go, and it was on what happened at Walkerton and a few other places and why it happened and everything else. And I haven't seen that for a couple of years. I wonder if we should be bringing that back for new councils to see what can happen and what we're responsible for. But the tour was amazing. If we run it again, I think everyone should go. It is so knowledgeable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foxton. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. Excuse me, through you, Chair. Thanks for the report and the update. I think delivering clean drinking water is one of the most important things. There's lots of really important things municipalities do, but making sure that our residents have clean, tested drinking water is clearly critically important. So thank you for that, and thank you for the nearly 100% compliance rate. That's two good news stories today. The GRT increase in ridership, and then also the this report. Excuse me. Sorry. My question is there work that your staff are doing or that we could consider doing to help some people who are newcomers to our society, to our community, better understand that the water that we deliver through the municipality is actually highly tested, I don't know how many times more every day than certainly bottled water. It's cheaper, it's much more reliable, but I do see, particularly at the events that I go to, but then in some different communities where people have come from, water was not able to be relied on, that we can really maybe better get that information out there. As an affordability issue, this bottled water is terribly expensive. So just wondering if you're thinking about how we could try and get this message out better to some people who may not know that they can trust the water to the high extent that they can.
Through the chair, I love that comment, Councillor McCabe. I'm familiar with that type of programming from other municipalities as well, and I'm currently working with a programs team to look at all of our education and outreach. That's one of the things that we're looking at around newcomers and new immigrants to the area, so happy to elaborate on that and certainly happy to provide you an update back on our progress.
That's really great to hear that you're doing that. Thank you. And just with respect to the tour, I wanted to go on a tour, but we just need a little bit more notice. So when you do come up with the dates, if you could give us a little more notice, that would be great because I am quite interested in getting out there. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. I see no further questions. So there is a motion on the floor, recommendation, sorry. We will need a mover for that. Councillor Erb and a seconder. Councillor McCabe. Councillor Wolf. Okay, that's carried. Okay, that is carried. We are now moving on to item 7.1.2, the servicing of Petersburg drinking water system. Commissioner Rose, you want to, if there's anything to speak to this report or any questions from council?
Thank you, Chair James. So this report is identifying a resource that we require due to the MECP asking us and ordering us actually to take on the Petersburg water system. So on January 15th, 2024, we did receive an order to take on the water treatment facility on May 13th, 2024. And it's not just the region, the township of Wilmot. It looks after the distribution part of the water system. We are taking on, as the region, the water treatment facility. There will be capital costs associated with assuming this infrastructure, and we'll be reporting back to council later this year on those capital costs once the condition assessment is complete on the infrastructure. However, there are also operational costs associated with taking on new infrastructure, especially systems, as this one is. So in this report, we're asking for one regulatory and program assistant to collect information to support the asset management plan, support work order development for operational checks and regulatory sampling that Mary just went through in the annual report, and to support documentations to be submitted to the MECP and to support updates to the Drinking Water Quality Management System. These are requirements under the Safe Drinking Water Act. There's sufficient budget in 2024 to support this request, so no additional funds are being requested in this report. However, the cost of this FTE will be reflected in the 2025 budget. And so happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jennifer. We have a couple. Councillor Selenin.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rose. I did just have a few questions of clarification. The one was on the role in the report highlight. It says that this role will be to help specifically with the Nipful water system. I'm curious if the role expands beyond that, as I know you guys have staffing challenges. Also, I'm trying to figure out why it wouldn't be contract and if there's validity for full-time permanent after the transition period has obviously happened. If you could just speak to that a bit.
Certainly, Councillor Selenin, it's a great question. So we have taken on a number of communal systems, plus our infrastructure has expanded over the years, and regulatory updates are an ongoing annual process. As Director McNeil said, we get 2 audits a year and 19 inspections a year over 150 systems. So just really our infrastructure has expanded. The need to update has also expanded. So we thought at this time that we would ask for an FTE to support the work to support the Safe Drinking Water Act requirements.
Perfect. And a follow-up, if I may. That's great to know that, yes, then there's a role beyond just the water, the NIPFA water system. The other thing I was wondering on the financial implications, I do understand that there's room in this budget. I'm trying to understand because it does say it becomes an annualized amount of $26,600. Is that on the levy portion, and then is the rest coming from water rates, or that just doesn't seem like a lot for a full-time staff position?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councillor in wastewater systems, it's mandated actually that rates support both systems. And in terms of the amount, we're finding some efficiencies within our current budget that we're going to use to apply towards the salary. So that extra is just to finish the, you know what I'm trying to say. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Thank you for the report, and I appreciate the need for enough staff to monitor our water. It's really important. But just wondering about the timing. We just finished budget, and so why was that not included in the budget? And maybe, I know you said some dates in your presentation, and I was looking at something else, so I missed that.
Yes, through the chair, we received the order in January, which was after budget compilation. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, there is a recommendation. I will need a mover and a seconder for that. I can move by Councillor Wolf, seconded by Councillor Shantz. Thank you. And you'll be prompted in e-scribe shortly. Okay, that is carried. Okay, there are no further items on the regular agenda. Item 8, for information, you've got the council and committee tracking list. Is there any other business from this committee? Seeing no further other business. All right, the next meeting is April 9th, 2024. Adjourn. I need a mover to adjourn. Councillor Wolf, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. You will now be prompted in e-scribe. Okay, that is carried. All right, next up, 5 minutes and we've got A&F.